Welcome to this week's edition of Winter and the Mailman. Unfortunately, the Mailman is not able to be here today, but who we do have is Chad Larson, who is the girls soccer coach at Scottsbluff. So how are you doing?
Good, thanks for having me here.
No problem, we're excited to have you.
Thanks.
So my first question, obviously I kind of asked you this last week. So the postponements.
Yeah.
So you had 2 postponements and then you finally got to play a game on a very cold and windy day.
Which you got to experience, yeah.
I don't ever want to experience that day at Landers ever again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how did the team adjust after those 2 postponements and then playing that game against Sterling? I mean, they did win 10-0.
Yeah, unfortunately, we postponements seem to come with the territory. So they kind of take it in stride, and they were just eager to play and get out there and show what they could do. So once they got out there, I just let them go, and they had a great time. So.
And in that game, Ella Foot.
Yeah, she's got
4 goals.
Yeah, good future ahead of her. Yeah.
So what do you see, obviously, for her going forward the rest of the season, along with the rest of the team?
Well, it's a lot of growth right now because we had a great game against Sterling, and then we played North Platte, and they kind of put us back in our place a little bit, which they tend to do, which they're a very good team. So we're just trying to grow each and every day, get better, and like with Ella, I think honestly the sky's the limit with her. I mean, she's very coachable. She does what you ask her to do. She just kind of puts her head down and goes. And so with athletes like that, which we have a lot of athletes on the team like that, so I'm excited to see where we can go this year.
And I mean, she's only a sophomore.
Right.
So she's still got another 2 years.
Yeah, and I don't know if her and her sister, were competitive when they were younger or growing up, but yeah, so Emma was a good player for us, and I think Ella's going to be just as good, and now she has some, targets to maybe take down from her sister, so.
So obviously, what's the difference between this year's team versus last year's?
This year's team, because of COVID, we're actually still a pretty young team because our juniors, this is only their 2nd year of actually playing, a lot of them, like full-sided outdoor 11v11 soccer. It would have been great if we could have had that, 2020 season to kind of get some of those growing pains out, but they're still learning here and there. They're a great group of kids to work with. I've used to have been coaching for quite a long time, which I have. I've coached a lot of them even when they were little kids, so I kind of know some of their tendencies and their strengths and weaknesses. So just to get out there and just to play, I think the game is the best teacher you can have, and I try not to just mess it up for them when I'm out there. So.
Well, speaking of strengths and weaknesses, obviously, what do you think is the strength of this team, and then obviously weaknesses that you want to obviously move into the strength category?
I think the strength is their work ethic. They are just, like I said today, which was really crappy outside. They wanted to go outside and practice, which I thought was kind of insane. So we ended up not because of the snow and everything. So they want to get better. They like to grind. They like to do the stuff that the suck is what I call it. They like to do that part of it. So that's a strength of theirs. They're willing to work. The things that we need to work on is we do have some younger players. Like last year we lost most of our back line, our defense. So we're trying to kind of nurture and bring those players along. And so with the veterans that we have helping those younger players, I think some of those new players that are a little bit less confident in their skills, like hopefully that grows into be some of our strengths in the next few weeks here as well.
So the game against North Platte, obviously 6-0, unfortunately.
I know, and it was crazy because we were tied 0-0 at halftime.
I heard.
And then we just kind of had a meltdown in the second half. So those are things we can learn from, though.
And then, so going from that game into the game against Northwest on Saturday, I mean, what are you taking away from that game against North Platte going into this week?
Well, technically speaking, which, some people
They're the same week.
Yeah. Like our midfield, we need to do like coach talk here. We need to connect our midfield to our front line, our strikers. Like we got so disconnected and we had too many gaps out there. So today, tomorrow, this week, we're working on kind of finding each other out there on the field and not having 3 separate units across the field, our defense, our midfield, and our strikers or our forwards. So we're trying to work with linking them up with each other so that we're kind of a cohesive group that's covering the whole field and not just in certain spots. So I think if we can do that, we have a really good opportunity to play very well against Northwest, who right now I think is undefeated. So if we could...
Still early.
Yeah, it is, and that's the thing, it's so early right now, we're trying to figure out who's got quality teams, who's, maybe a little bit under the radar, so It'll be a good matchup. We played them really well last year, and I think, you know, we got one from them last year. They're probably eager to get one from us this year, so.
Well, I know you do have one more game against North Platte to end the season.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's here. But, so was it just second half, just they weren't, like, communicating as much? Or?
I think part of it was, and I would give credit to North Platte too. I think I could hear her yelling at her team at halftime to make some of their adjustments, and they did. They made really good adjustments. They started moving a lot faster. I think maybe they underestimated us that first half, and we caught them off guard. Unfortunately, we couldn't score, and so they started just outmaneuvering us, outworking us, I would say. And I told the girls that, and they would admit to that. They just outworked us the second half, and once they smell blood in the water, they're one of those teams that they will put their boot on your throat and just go for it. So, which is what they did.
And I'm sure your team don't want to get shut out ever again.
No, and North Platte, they just seem to have our number, and so that would be a major step forward. We said, you know, going into that game, we want to prove that we're a state caliber team. The first half, we felt like we played a state caliber team, but then the second half, we kind of proved why we're not quite there yet. And so that's kind of our motivation, is to not play like that ever again.
Well, to be fair, you guys, that was only your second game versus their what, like?
I think they're
fourth or fifth?
Sixth. They're 4-2 now, so it was their sixth game, I think. So, which, yeah, I appreciate that. That makes me feel a little better. So it does help a little bit, but.
By the end of the season, you'll get a lot more under your belt.
Yes, and so we hope to make it more competitive by then, and to have that game right before the district tournament.
And it's here.
Yes.
So you have your home crowd this time, and
Yeah.
hopefully it's not
freezing
cold.
Yeah, so that would be awesome. But
so you've been coaching for 16 years.
yeah.
Your daughter is a junior on the team.
Mm-hmm.
So what's it like, obviously, coaching her? And I know you still have one more year with her.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I guess that helps a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's been really special, because Kaya, my oldest daughter, graduated last year, and just, you know, coaching them, like I said, like from when they're little kids, and then having the opportunity to coach them all the way through high school, that's something that a lot of people don't get to experience. And at times, like, I'm the bad guy, you know, and you don't want to, as a coach who has their kid in your program, you don't want to seem like you're favoring your child. So sometimes you inadvertently do more the opposite way, and you maybe put, you know, too much pressure on them, or you know, make sure that people know that you're not favoring your child, which is sometimes unfair too. But I think they've both been students of the game. Ever since they were little, they were watching soccer, and they just wanted to play. And we always made it, you know, if you want to play, that's great. If you don't, that's awesome too. Find something to do. Just be passionate about it. And they both have been great about it. And, you know, I miss having Kaya out there with me this year, but, you know, Kate's there with me, and I bounce ideas off of her, and she's like, oh yeah, that was a really good drill, or yeah, that one wasn't really good. And she's kind of gives me an inside track to the team. And then, you know, I have one more daughter that's in middle school, and if she chooses to play, that's great. But again, if that's their decision. So I just feel like it's been a blessing to kind of work with them.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you were cheering on the inside when she scored those 2 goals.
Yeah, I mean, you try to like play it cool, like, oh yeah, I knew, but inside you're just like, yeah, that's awesome. You know, my kid scored a goal, or my kid did something good. So I mean, it's neat. It's a good experience.
Yeah, and obviously I was with the parents because I was cold and didn't want to move with my blanket. So I know that some of them were also just like, if their kids scored, they were like, yes. And then with Ella, they're like, that was her 4th. I'm like, really?
Yeah. Well, and that's what I love about our group, is like, we individually, there's success, but we love to see other people succeed too. We got, like, there's this mantra, like, yeah, we want to be successful, but it's great when other people succeed too, because, and I really don't feel like our players get caught up in stats or anything like that, because our poor defenders, there's like really no stats for them, but a lot of times they keep us in games, and, you know, they deflect a lot of stuff that might be coming down the field that you never even realize, and then it turns into a goal on the other side, and we're like, oh yeah, we scored again, but it really started from the defense. So.
Yeah, and I mean, we were kind of counting your goalie's touches that game. We were like, oh, there's 5.
Yeah, it was few and far between. So, but she got plenty of work the next game against North Platte. So
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just like, how many touches has she had now?
Yeah, and unfortunately it was cold, so I think she was freezing by the second half. So.
Yeah, and I remember you were talking to her about that afterwards too.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of want to know what like preseason looked like, obviously, because a lot of your girls also played winter sports.
Yeah, and that just comes with the territory. And you know, I think we're really fortunate at Scottsbluff High School that we have great coaches, you know, a quality AD, and we all want to be successful. And so at times it's frustrating, like, with, you know, for me, because I want to get my players and I want to start working on stuff, but it's awesome to see them excelling in basketball or swimming or volleyball or other things like that. And sometimes it's hard for us to, we have to remember, we have to share the athletes, you know, because there's only so much to go around. But so when it's your turn to work with them, you just feel really fortunate and really blessed that, you know, you get to work with these great kids day in and day out, and that they want to work, they want to get better. And I think that's, it didn't always used to be like that. There was a time where our girls' athletics were, you know, not as successful, and we tried to make a plan of what can we do to get it better, get them in the weight room, start doing things, and all of our coaches and our activities and it's very professional, and we just want them to be successful, so we just want to provide the best opportunity we can for them. So I hope I'm doing that for them now. So
well, that's all I've got. Do you have anything that you wanted to add?
no, just thanks for having me. This is kind of cool.
No problem.
Yeah,
But good luck on the rest of your season.
thank you.
And
Appreciate it.
so, obviously, you can watch this and then pick up a print edition if you want to see more sports coverage, or go to starherald.com, and we will see you all in 2 weeks.